Hey gang, it's your buddy Platt, and today we review the Simply Beer beer making kit. So let's go. So it's been a while since I brewed some beer, just hadn't gotten around to it. Been doing some other things, but been kind of itching to brew some beer. Recently was on Amazon. You guys know I love homebrewing kits, so I'm always keeping my eye out for one. And I found this one, the Simply Beer beer making kit. Comes to us from the fine folks at Northern Brewer. I've reviewed one of their other kits before. I believe it was their Caribou Slobber, which is a brown ale kit of theirs. Northern Brewer has a wide variety of kits: 1 gallon, 2 gallon, wine making, mead making, 5 gallon, even home brewing equipment. They kind of sell it all. This is one of their newer kits. I haven't seen it before. Maybe it's been out for a little bit, but I just hadn't seen it before. This is a 1 gallon kit. I love smaller kits, especially if you're new to home brewing. Traditionally in the past, kits were generally 5 gallon kits. That's just a lot of beer, especially if your friends aren't true craft beer fans or don't want to kind of experiment along with you. So I like the smaller kits. Real quick, let's check out this kit. First, the recipe is a Cascade Pass Pale Ale. Pale Ale is pretty straightforward beer, so this is something, a beer style that works fine with a kind of beginner kit. Let's see what is inside. Right. They have everything all thrown in together into the fermenter. First is the Big Mouth Bubbler lid. This is a 1 gallon plastic fermenter. You guys probably heard me talk before. I love plastic fermenters over glass. Break a glass fermenter, you'll understand why. Next to, also love the wide mouth. When I was looking over this kit, this is one of the reasons why I bought it. Nice wide mouth. I will probably use this for other things like mead and cider, where maybe I add fruit or whatever. It just makes my life easier. Let's see what's all inside. We got the big bag. Looks like all our fermentables are in there. First is something called the component guide and a brewing guide. Just real quick kind of overview on brewing. This is not the instructions, just more informational piece of paper. Next we have something called the oxygen wash. This is your sanitizer. You use about half the pack on brewing day, and the other half you'll save for bottling. No bottles come with this, so you have to save your own bottles, but if you're a fan of the channel, I'm pretty sure you got beer bottles available. Next is the spigot assembly that'll go up front here. We have our rubber bung, and then this is our airlock. Actually, I own probably 8 or 9 airlocks, but this first one of these kind of double airlocks I have, so something new even for a old vet like me. Next, let's dig into the big bag, see what we got in here. First, we have our actual instructions. Looks fairly thorough. I went over, I was looking online about this and everything. Fairly thorough instructions, pretty straightforward. According to the instructions, if we follow everything, this beer should come out at 5.5% ABV and roughly about 40 IBUs. Pretty typical for this style. So at 5.5, most of these beer kits mid 3s to low 4s, so this is a little boost there. Let's see what we have in here. First, this is our grains. It just says Pale Ale Small Batch Grain Blend, but this is our specialty grains. This kit is what we call a partial mash kit. You will use some grains, but you'll also use malt extract. It's kind of the step above your Mr. Beer Brew Demon kits. Those are just pretty much canned hop malt extracts. So this is still a beginner's kit, but it's slightly more advanced than those. You know, again, the Coopers, the Muntons, those are pretty much just everything in a can. You add some hot water and there you go. This is a little more advanced. So we got our specialty grains. Next we have, it's called Fizz Drops. This is used for carbonation. Generally 1 drop per bottle. This is just more fermentable sugar. Again, used for bottle conditioning. You want to set that off to the side. Next we have our hop additions. There's 4 different packages, but I think we have 3 different hop additions. Cascade, German Pearl, and Centennial. We have 2 packs of Cascade. Leave those there. These are already pre-measured. Everything in here is already pre-measured, so you don't have to do any measuring. Just use it. Makes your life easier. Then we have our Golden Light dried malt extract. You have a 1 pound pack and a 1/4 pound pack, so 1 1/4 pounds. You'll need a pack of active brew yeast. On the bottom it says American Ale. This is probably net weight 4 grams. This is you'll use the whole pack for this. I always say 2 to 3 grams roughly per gallon on yeast, but they give you 4. And then last but not least is this little muslin bag or hop bag. This will be actually used for the grains. So that's everything in our kit that we need to make a pale ale. So let's get to making a pale ale. Alright, so we're ready to make some pale ale with our Simply Beer kit. First thing I did was put 1 1/4 gallons into my brew pot. This is a 3-gallon brew pot. Always leave extra room when you're brewing beer. Real quick, this is a gallon beer kit, but we're putting in 1 gallon and 1/4 because we're going to lose roughly 1/4 gallon through evaporation during the process. So we'll still end up with 1 gallon of finished product. Real quick too, I've also thrown in some water and sanitizer into our fermenter, and I've got my airlock and bung in there, so we're go ahead and sanitizing while we're going through the brewing process. Be sure you follow the instructions on sanitation. We used about half the pack of the sanitizer. Like I said, the rest we're going to keep for bottling. So let's get going. First thing we're going to do is turn this to a medium heat. One thing to note, like I said, this is a partial mash. On here they don't list a temperature to hit. It's more of a time reference. They say about 20 minutes at medium heat. Normally, if you're doing a partial mash, between 150 155 is the temperature you want when you add the grains. That's how it's generally done. This kit's just saying, hey, turn it on, and then by the time you get the grains in and let it sit for 20 minutes, they'll extract the sugars. So while this is heating up, our next step will be we're going to take our little muslin sack here, and we're going to put in our specialty grains. You'll want to do this over the sink or a container because you'll get a lot of dust. You'll get a lot of fine grain dust if you don't, so like that. All right. You want to give it a shake or two. We're going to twist her off. We're basically using this as a glorified tea bag. And we're going to dunk it a few times. You want to make sure you don't want any dough balls or dry spots in there. You want to make sure we get the water. Alright, that should be good. And we're going to let this sit for the next 20 minutes. we're going to, and during that time, the water's going to heat up. It's going to kick in kind of enzymes in a reaction, and we're going to extract the fermentables out of our specialty grains. So let's come back in 20 minutes. All right, so it's been about 20 minutes, and we're going to take our bag out. You want to let the water drain. You don't want to squeeze the bag because you could get some tannins kind of leach out of the grain, the husk. So we're just going to let this drain off. We got nice brown colored water, so we did extract something out of the grains. And we're going to go ahead and turn this up to high and bring this to the boil. So we'll come back when we get a boil. All right, so we've brought our water up to a boil, and we're going to go ahead and turn off the heat. We're going to now add in our dried malt extract. You don't want to do this with the heat on because you can get what's called a boil over. It just when that malt extract hits the water, it just kind of flares up, so we don't want that. So cut the heat off, and let's add our dried malt extract. This is the base of our fermentables. The other grains we added, you get a few more fermentables, but really more for flavor and color. You'll want to dump this in as fast as possible. Sometimes you get a little clumping in the bag. This is a good stir. Try to get as much out of that bag as possible. You do get a little steam flare every once in a while in the bag, so you might get some clumps, but that's all right. All right, I'm going to get this all stirred in. Then we're going to bring it back to a boil, and we'll come back at the start of the boil to add our first hop addition. All right, so we're back up to a boil now, and this is where this kit's a little different than a traditional kit, or if you're just doing your own partial mash. Most of the time a boil, it goes for 1 hour. In this particular kit, we're only doing a 45-minute boil. So you're saving about 15 minutes. You know, you might not be boiling off as much water or what have you. But anyway, just wanted to kind of talk about that. At the 45-minute point, or 45 minutes left in the boil, or at the start of the boil, we're going to add 3.5 grams of our Centennial hops. Like I said, this is already measured out for us. Put that in. Just give a quick stir. Want to make sure those hops get everywhere. And now we're going to come back at the 20-minute mark to do our next hop addition. All right, so we're about 25 minutes later into the boil, and it's time to add our next hop addition. We're going to add 3.5 grams of German Pearl hops. All right, give it a quick little stir. Oh, this smells so good. If you're just getting started into home brewing, let me tell you, that's one of the first things you'll get used to. Is just the smell of the malt and the hops over the boil. It is quite something. Well, we have one more hop addition to do, and that is here in another 12 minutes, so we'll come back for that. All right, so we got about 8 minutes left in the boil, and we're going to do our last hop addition. We're going to open both packs of our Cascade hops, a total of 10.5 5 grams of hops. Let's add those in. Oh, that smells so good. Those Cascade hops are just, classic hops in pale ales, IPAs, or whatever. Very distinctive aroma. All right, so we got that all stirred in. So we're done with our hop addition. We're going to let this boil for another 8 minutes, and then I'm going to then we're going to turn off the heat, and we're going to throw it in the sink and chill it down to room temperature before we actually put it in our fermenter. So when we finish up the boil, we'll cool her down to room temperature, and then we'll come back to pitch the yeast and kind of talk through the rest of the process. All right, gang, so we've let our wort cool down to roughly room temperature. 65 to 75 degrees is about where you want this at. Time to go ahead and pitch our yeast. Real quick, I wasn't quite up to a full gallon, so I've filled with water to get to the 1 gallon mark. That's what we're shooting for. So let me go ahead and add the yeast. We're going to use the whole pack. It's a 4 gram pack of yeast. We're just going to sprinkle that on top. No need to stir in. That's one of the questions I get a lot of times on these home brewing videos. Do I need to stir or whatever? No need to stir. The yeast will eventually fall out. They'll get hydrated in the wort, and then they'll fall out and do their thing. All right. Ooh. All right. So we're all set there. We're going to let this sit for 2 weeks at room temperature, and then after 2 weeks, it'll be time to bottle. You will bottle condition. We have the carbonation drops here. You'll have more than enough to do. You'll probably get about 10 beers or so out of this, not quite a 12-pack. Out of this, use the carbonation drops. Then you'll let the beer condition in the bottle for 2 more weeks. So in roughly 1 month, we'll have our Cascade Pass Pale Ale ready to drink. I will do another video then, kind of reviewing how the beer came out. But we created 1 gallon of pale ale with our Simply Beer beer making kit. So I'm looking forward to that. Well, I hope you liked this video. If you did, please subscribe down below. Also, please like the video because it lets YouTube know we're putting out good content. Also, I will leave a link down below if you would like to get this kit. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, please leave them in the comment section, or you can always contact me on the Twitter page. Till next time, bottoms up.